Indlela, indlela yethu. Indlela, indlela yobunye.
Welcome to this episode of Indlela, The Way, where we talk about the way we do things and the way we see and understand the right way of doing. Today I want to talk to you about the fact that the church exists first and foremost at the local level. We're talking about local churches, local assemblies. All over the country, we have so many of them where people come together on a weekly basis in a particular suburb or township or inner city where they meet as the local church or the local assembly. And I'm saying that is the place where the church exists first and foremost. That's the place where you and myself go, and we call that our church, the local assembly. Today we're going to cover why the local assembly matters. Why is the local church important? And how does the larger structures of the church fit into that and serve the local church? And what does this mean for us as leaders and also the church members all over the country? When we look at the Bible and say, what does the Bible say? And what is the picture of the Bible of the church? Then we see the church was deeply local in the first church. It happened in a particular town or small suburb or a city where members gather and they were the church. And they were deeply relational. The early believers came together in their community. And that's the place where ministry happens. It happens where people live. And it's still like that today. There's a church, a local church, close to where we all live. And that's the one that, in my opinion, is the key or the most important part or the most important expression of the church. It is first and foremostly local. And then there are other structures like the region and national structure that is there to serve and empower the local church. So when we look at that, we see the local assembly, the local church, as God's primary tool. He works there. That's the place where people are taught, where people are made disciples, where people are being cared for. You go to your local church to be taught. On a Sunday, you hear the sermon, but during the week, there are many things happening in the local church that cares for you, that builds you up, that empowers you and serves you. Even the local church is the place where we evangelize. We are reaching out to win souls for Christ in the local church context. So the identity of the church is first and foremost local. It happens there, in your street, in your suburb, in your neighborhood. Faith becomes visible there. In your workplace, in your families. That's the place where you grow, where you belong, where you feel at home. You don't really feel at home when you come to the national office of the church. You come there to be empowered, to receive things that you can use in your local context, to disciple people, to serve people. So if we say, why does the local assembly matters most? We are saying because that is the place where lives are actually transformed. Most people do not get life change or experience life change at the national office. Most people do not see their lives change at the context of the region, but it changed in the context of relationships. In the context of pastoral care, where there are a team of people caring, reaching out, phoning, hearing what's happening, where people are praying for you, where there's a prayer meeting or a prayer chain, and people come together to pray, where people share meals and they actually eat together, where people minister to the sick, where we feed the hungry, where we really care for people who are lonely, and we reach out to the lost. We fulfill our great commandment to reach out to the world in the context of the local assembly. That is why I say That is first and foremost the church. And all the other structures are there to strengthen and empower the local assembly. So what then is the place of the region? What then is the place and the function of the national structures? Because in and of themselves, they are not the church. They are serving and empowering the church. No one can call our national office the church, but you call your local assembly, your local church where you go every week, you call that your church. But we have a regional structure. We have a national structure, and they are there to provide governance, to provide training, to do and have oversight, to make sure that we function in unity and that we share our resources. National structures are there to make sure that we protect our doctrine. What do we believe as a church? And how do we work according to those beliefs? That's part of the role of the national structure. We are also there to support every local assembly during times of challenge, to empower, to assist every pastor to grow, to be strengthened, and that they will know there is a place in the region or national where they can go for resources, where they can go to be equipped and even to be encouraged. So these local structures, the local church structures, reach out and find themselves in the context of a regional structure and a national structure that should help them to grow, to flourish, and to stay healthy. The national structures are not there to actually control. They are there to guide, to do oversight, to help the local church to be in the context, in the framework of who we are as the AFM and where we are going as the church, to provide vision and direction. But that actually happens and takes place on the ground level in the local assembly, in the local church, where the local church is free to express their own character. And we have churches all over the country, and all of them have a different character, a different culture, where they worship God in a certain way, where the music and the songs are different, the liturgy is different, but we are all part of the one AFM, under the national and regional structure. But again, at the local church, the local assembly, it's the place where ministry happens weekly, daily, I want to say. And if we then say, but how does a healthy church ecosystem look? I think it firstly looks like a local church, a local assembly that is thriving, where there is really a vibrant worship, where people come and they worship God, where you can come and in this church, my church, I can truly worship God. I am given the opportunity, the atmosphere, the framework to praise God, to worship Him, where I can be discipled, where the church people, my fellow members, my pastor, the ministries are there to disciple me, to guide me, to grow as a believer. That happens at the local level. At that local level, we see also the active outreach where we fulfill the Great Commission. We are told by Jesus, go and make disciples. Where do you do that? Not so much a national office, but we do that at local level, at the local assembly level. And also there, we have the opportunity to have authentic relationships. There you have friends. There you have people that journey through life with you, that are there when your children are born, who are there when your children graduate, who are there even at the time when you have to greet a loved one and bury them, who are there to care for you, and together you grow, together you are a family. That happens at the local assembly level, the local church, and that is foremost, I believe, where the church exists. That is the church. So then the structures of the region come, and of national come, and their role is to develop leaders, to share the missional opportunities, and to put our missional framework into action, to guide us how to do this, to give us the tools, to enable us, to help us to see the possibilities of what we can do at local level, to oversee the whole structure that we build and enforce and strengthen the church, but not try to control it so much. So in the whole of the national, regional, and the local church context, we need to have respect for one another. We need to communicate continuously to one another. That is why from national office and regional office, from time to time, we send out correspondence and communication, be that in video format or on social media or in written format, to communicate to our local assemblies, to communicate to our members, to tell them where are we at, where are we aiming, what is the aim, the vision, the plans going forward for the whole of the AFM church, knowing that in every local assembly, the way that find expression might look a little bit different. So the larger structure is there to try and enable, to try and motivate, to try and guide every local assembly. So how does this then look practically? What is the implication practical for us as leaders, but also for every member in every local assembly? For the pastors, I think it is to make use of what is offered by your region and what is offered by the national structure to support you, to assist you, to do what you do even better, to do what you do in an excellent way. What does this mean for members? It means that me and you as members in local assembly needs to love and build and serve in our local assembly set up. Serve in your local church. That is where God placed you. That's the place where you must truly be a member of His body and where you truly make a difference, where you truly carry out what God has given us as the Great Commission, where you care, where you search and share your faith with the people around you. In the context of the region and the national, we must always ask ourselves, how does what we do benefit and empower the local church? How does what we are dreaming about or structuring about or talking about, how does that help the local assembly? How will that take the work of the local church forward? That should always be our question, because we exist to serve and to empower the local church. So if we talk about all of us as the members of the AFM, we all need to remember the church is not the office. The church is not the region or the national office. The church is the place where people come together, where people follow Jesus, where people serve Jesus, and together they give expression to why the church exists, to impact our communities, to impact our world, to bring people in relationship to God. That happens first and foremost at the local assembly. So let me just remind you again that the local church is the heartbeat of God's kingdom work. That is where the church exists. The regional, national structures are there to empower, to enable the local church to do what they should do as best, as impactful and practical as possible. I want to encourage our leaders on all levels to build structures to empower and not to burden. To build structures to make it possible for the local church, local assembly to grow strongly. As we are planting and revitalizing more churches, may God help us to always remember the local church is the place where God works, and we need to strengthen the local church. The local assembly must be a strong place where people gather to worship, to celebrate, but also to reach out and to touch the world with what God has called us to do. May God bless you, and I see you at our next episode. Thank you.